and with Fight Master tradition, the internet didn't work, and everyone's here right now. We're working on the internet, but we're having some technical difficulties. So we're gonna stream live through the iPhone, but we're gonna film it and we'll put it back up on YouTube later. So I am going to give it to my assistant Jess right now.
Oh yeah, I gotta change the angle. Sorry guys, we're working on it. Okay.
He says that with the internet, he said that should split. He doesn't know why it's not.
Right.
Yeah. So
where are you gonna start right now?
we're gonna start.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Hey, can
Well, can you go, man?
you go find my cell phone? It's yellow. It's on the table.
Right.
Should I cruise up there after I find it?
Yes.
Listening to a song by Lesley, the Hanuman song. Do you guys all have a flower?
I'll be up there. So you just like
This is
give me the look whenever you're ready.
Alex.
This is a song that Lesley recorded. I believe it was. Let me go find that song.
Alex. It's just life happening. That goes on, right?
Jai 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 Hanuman Gosai Kripalaya Gurudeva Hare Rama 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 Sita Ram Ram Ram
here today to celebrate the beautiful life of Lesley Fightmaster, daughter to Ed and Linda Frost, sister to Chris and David Frost, my wife, mom to Indy and Stone Fightmaster, friend to so many, yoga teacher to countless souls around the world. Lesley was a light in this world. She would light up a room when she walked into it, and her light shined much brighter than the room she was in. Her life's mission became shining light where there was darkness, and helping others to discover light within themselves. To recognize and honor Lesley's light, Indy and Stone will now light a candle, which will represent the beautiful light that was Lesley. Oh, you got to go around front, I think. Lesley spread her positive light and energy to all of us. We have received it, and we now carry it to others in our own lives. Lesley, your light has truly changed the world, and it will continue on through all of us. You can move on now, knowing that you have left only beauty. Be free to spread your light wherever it is needed next. Lesley grew up in a small town called Alden, New York, outside of Buffalo. Her father, Ed Frost, was a high school English teacher, and her mother, Linda, was a music teacher. When Lesley was a baby, Linda taught her how to sing, teaching her to hit different notes. Before Lesley could even talk, she was singing on key. Lesley had a gifted voice, a beautiful singing voice. She could sing beautiful harmonies. And that beautiful singing voice translated to a beautiful speaking voice. And when she spoke, it was almost as if she was singing. This beautiful voice led to her calling in life, teaching yoga. And so many people around the world were healed by her soothing vocal cords. And for that, we can thank Lesley's mother, Linda, for giving Lesley a gift that the whole world benefited from. Our friend Sal will now be singing the Prayer of St. Francis to honor Lesley and her beautiful voice.
Or are you shooting on it?
Some of the most powerful words ever written are found in this prayer. And there are no better suited words for Lesley than these, because this is how she lived her life. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there's despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, joy. O divine Master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love, for it's in giving that we receive, and it's in pardoning that we are pardoned, and it's in dying that we are born to eternal life. Highest in me, she's the highest in you, the highest in me, she's the highest in you. Amen. Amen.
Lesley's father, Ed, was a high school English teacher. No doubt he was a huge influence on Lesley's beautiful way with words. Ed had a great sense of humor. He was a big fan of early black and white comedies, especially the Marx Brothers.
Why don't we move on to our guest tonight? We have a very special guest, Lesley's father. All right. Ed, welcome to the show. Thank you very much. I'm glad to have you here.
I'm sure that Ed needed this sense of humor as his daughter was ditching class at the high school he taught at.
If you go to the right, let it cook.
Lesley even used to take his car without permission during lunch. She was a bit of a wild child during her younger years. This sense of humor that Ed gave to Lesley eventually turned to something great. Lesley came to realize that we don't have to take ourselves so seriously. We don't have to be perfect. Lesley's good friend Amber will now read a letter that was written by Lesley about her childhood.
A letter from Lesley. I used to stand on the windowsill of a big picture window in our living room. Cream-colored drapes trimmed with burnt orange covered the window. I'd stand on the windowsill as if I were standing behind the curtains of a stage. I'd announce myself, "Ladies and gentlemen, introducing Lesley Frost." That was my maiden name. I'd throw the curtains open, jump off the windowsill, and begin my performance. My main act was dancing and singing my heart out to Barry Manilow's Copacabana. I would try to get my mom and dad to watch me constantly. They'd humor me from time to time, but mostly I entertained myself. I had a dream. I wanted to be a famous actress and singer. I used to fantasize that one day I would be discovered by some high-powered talent agent. There were a couple of small problems in this scenario. One, I lived in a really, really small town outside of Buffalo, New York. High-powered talent agents were hard to come by. Two, I didn't know how to dance or sing, and I wasn't interested in learning how. Taking lessons meant practicing. I wasn't interested in that because for me, practicing meant work. It wasn't fun. I held onto my dreams for many years, but as I began to grow up, the reality of what was required made me realize it seemed more and more unachievable. My mom was a church organist and choir director. She'd have me sing at church from the time I was 5 until college. Every time I was asked to sing a solo, I was terrified. I completely lacked confidence in myself. I took some singing lessons here and there, but I was so bottled up inside of my head that my voice didn't have much of a chance. I wanted to be perfect, but I still didn't want to practice. I wanted to study music in college, but the auditions were so daunting. I applied and auditioned to a couple schools, but my lack of confidence won out and I was ultimately rejected. I was so hurt. The feeling of defeat consumed me, and I didn't go to college right after high school. I took a year and a half off, but after getting a taste of the real world, I decided that college didn't seem like such a bad idea. Eventually, I realized that I didn't want to be a famous singer and dancer. I think that dream began to fade as I learned about all the work it would entail. Plus, my confidence had only increased a little, and the struggle was more than I could handle back then. Luckily, the universe stepped in and I found yoga. Yoga has been my saving grace. The confidence I gained from daily practice is unbelievable, especially because I never liked practicing anything before yoga. Yoga has given me the incredible gift of not having to try and be perfect. It's a practice, and there's always more to learn. There's always someone better. I don't have to compare myself to anyone else. I can just compare myself to myself. Now I embrace the imperfections I used to hide. Yoga is not about the pose. One of Lesley's favorite quotes. Just let go. Let go of what you thought your life should be and embrace the life that is trying to work its way into your consciousness. Carolyn Miss. And this is from me. I'm Amber O'Hara. I'm a friend of Lesley's, and I just wanted to share a little bit about Lesley's impact on my life. I can vividly remember when I met Lesley. There was a light surrounding her. I was so drawn to her calm, peaceful energy because I had none of that. The same energy and light helped me through so many dark times in my life. I know I speak for so many when I say the impact that Lesley has had on me was deep, profound, and will last many lifetimes. As my sponsor, she was directly responsible for showing me and many women how to recover, how to learn to love ourselves, and how to grow into the women we were meant to be. If I needed to work the 12 steps, she was there. If I needed relationship advice, she was there. If I needed to balance my chakras, she told me what to do. When I wanted to grow my business, she gave me resources to help. If I needed a yoga class, her and her videos were there. When I didn't know how to handle being a mom, she told me I was doing a good job. She really was a woman who had it all.
While teaching yoga, Lesley would constantly remind us that we don't have to be perfect. She would say, it's not about the pose. When we were filming her yoga classes, she would sometimes make a mistake. She would mix up her left and her right. But she would keep in the mistakes, and she would laugh about it. And it was funny, because she was showing us that she was human with flaws. And we all related, and we laughed with her. And I think the beginnings of that sense of humor were heavily influenced by her father. Lesley's dad recently passed away and joined Lesley in the next plane. Ed, we thank you for bringing such a beautiful soul into this world and giving us all the gift of laughter. Lesley's friend Gigi will now read a letter from Lesley.
Yeah, it's gotta come out. Hi everyone. This is what Duke gave me to read. When I was 6, I stole a neighbor's rabbit and brought it to my first grade for show and tell. My teacher asked me if it was mine. I lied and said yes. She asked where the rabbit's cage was. I don't remember what I said, but I was busted. I had a deep need for belonging. I did whatever I could think of so the other kids would like me. It was a pattern that continued for many years. Trying to impress in order to win friends doesn't work out well. Even if you succeed in gaining friendship that way, you'll feel the need to continue the charade. The next thing you know, you've lost your true self. If this resonates at all, it's time to come back to the real you. Be yourself, instead of trying to change yourself to fit in with others. Be who you are and connect. You'll find that when you stay exactly who you are, you'll find others who are attracted to your authenticity. These human connections are powerful and healing. And one of Lesley's favorite quotes is, "This above all, to thine own self be true." So Duke had sent me that, and when we had first had to cancel this memorial, I had written some words down, and I wrote them like really fast, and I didn't look at it for another like month or whatever. And then Duke sent me that, and I looked at what I wrote, and it was like exactly what you sent me. And that authenticity is what always attracted me to Lesley. She taught me that I can be just me, and the people who can hang with that will love me, all of me, and the people who can't can just go fuck themselves. And that's a direct quote. And for those of you who aren't familiar with like a sponsor-sponsee relationship, it's a very intimate one. For example, who else are you going to talk to about the 80 or 90 strangers you slept with without any judgment whatsoever? And I'm speaking generally, it's not me at all. It's definitely not my story. When I asked Lesley to sponsor me, I was really disillusioned with that relationship. I felt hurt and disappointed and misunderstood and saddened by some of the women who had previously sponsored me. And I was ready just to say fuck it and sponsor myself, and I did for a little bit. And then my good friend Kat told me to ask Lesley. And I had been going to talk shows since I was like 90 days sober. And so I knew who Lesley was, and she was always on my short list of possible sponsors. And I asked her to sponsor me, and she was like, absolutely. And she completely renewed my faith in that relationship. Unconditional love are words that are thrown around a lot. But that was truly what Lesley Fightmaster gave me. I could be my true self with her, like no judgments, no conditions. She was all in with me, and there was nothing I could say or do to change her love for me. She was all in with Gigi, and I'm forever grateful for her. And because of her, I know that I am enough today, and I'm living my authentic self. The good, the bad, and the ugly. And I can show the women I sponsor that they are enough. And I see them for who they are. The good, the bad, and the ugly. And that they are enough. And that's how Lesley's legacy lives on. Thanks.
Lesley had 3 best girlfriends growing up: Maria, Kristen, and Ginny. They were inseparable, and they all remained friends for over 4 decades. Lesley's best friend, Maria, will now share what it was like growing up with Lesley.
Thank you for everyone to come today. It's been a long while with this whole COVID break that we've had to have, and there's been so much sadness and pain through this. But I hope that through today that we can celebrate Lesley's life and the light that she's given us to see into the future, that there's always love, compassion, and hope. It's an honor for me to stand here. And I've already heard everything that I put into my paper. So everybody already knows what she has given to you to take on in this life. So through Duke and the friends that have spoken already, sorry, you're going to hear it again. So, like Duke said, we were a foursome, and we all met in grade school, and we were troublemakers. I met her doing cartwheels down the hallway in front of her dad's high school English room. So, we did kind of get kicked out of our classes, but we had fun doing cartwheels. So through that kind of a long friendship, we get to see each other through the worst and the best times. And so many of you here who she's been a sponsor for, those were some of the worst times. So we got to also embrace that and be there for her too through some of her worst times. So I think that's what made the bond so strong with all of us over 38 years. She was that person who would just call on the phone, even though she lived 3,000 miles away. She would just call and say, Maria, what's going on? There was no way she would know 3,000 miles away I was having a really bad day. But she knew. I don't know how. She knew. And I feel like she touched so many people in that way. And I'm so happy that she got to share that light. We just heard her unconditional love. We got to share that for so long with her. For those of you who didn't really get to know her in a deep way, know that she was from Buffalo, only knew her through California. She was the kindest, most generous person I've ever met. Lesley, she made a decision every day to wake up. A lot of us wake up in the morning, we feel not the greatest because maybe the day before we fought with our friends, we fought with our spouse, we fought with our children. But she woke up every day and she made a choice to be a positive light for all of those in her life. And that decision is not an easy decision to carry through because it's much easier being a negative person. And those choices that she made are difficult, but she did it anyways. And she did it for all of us. She was no stranger to unimaginable loss, to self-sacrifice, to feeling down, to feeling defeated. But this is why she could connect to all of us, to all of you, because she knew how everyone felt. She could connect with you. Yet she still made that choice, even though she felt down on a day, she still made that choice to get up and be positive. She felt like home. Does everybody remember her hugs? They were real. They were full of feeling. So everybody can take that with you and hug. And don't be the first person to let go. What Lesley loved the most were her boys, her family. That's what we talked about the most on the phone or in person. My boys, that's how she'd refer to you. Always my boys. Indy, the guy that's always people pleasing. Such a sweetheart, you care so deeply, always. It's a gift. Believe me, it's a gift. Because it's so easy to look negatively upon things. Continue to carry this gift with you. Always. Follow your heart, your mind. Don't lose yourself. Always stand up for yourself because you're amazing. Stony, how we would laugh. Like we would laugh and laugh at some of your antics. Some of the jokes you would say, some of the things you would do, some of the buttons you would push with your teachers at school. We would laugh. You always pushed the boundaries. But she told me she had no doubt that this was a sign of a good leader. that one day you would probably run a large company. She was certain that your brilliant smile, an infectious warmth, would win people over. Work hard with love in your heart like she did, and great things will happen. I know you've already heard this before, but Lesley could make anyone feel like they were the most important person in the world. She carried warmth and had a great sense of humor, which made her so much fun to be around. She ended every yoga session with a quote. And today that we were with a few words to one of our favorite songs that we would sing. I mean, I would never sing like louder than her because it was just awful. But she would sing, she loves Somewhere Over the Rainbow. So fly, my little bluebird, fly.
Growing up in Buffalo was not always easy. The winters are brutal. The snow dumps on you like a cold blanket. The blizzards are no fun. And I think that the winters traumatized Lesley to the snow. And that was probably a big factor that brought her out to California. Lesley's friend Kayla will read a letter written by Lesley talking about her time growing up in Buffalo.
You're gonna have to go a little higher with that, sir. Thank you. That's probably good. All right, I'm gonna try. Hello, everybody. A letter from Lesley. I grew up outside of Buffalo, New York. It's a very small town with 3,000 people in the village. My mom wouldn't like me to say this, but the weather in the Buffalo area is really awful. Okay, I'll rephrase that. Sorry, Mom. The weather in Buffalo was really awful for me. My friends would go skiing and sledding and ice skating in the winter. I went a few times and hated it every second. Way too cold. My mittens would always get wet. My hands would hurt from being so cold. My boots would inevitably leak, and my feet were frozen. I used to put plastic bread bags over my socks. Somehow, they still got wet. It was almost always cloudy, even in the summertime. Summer was almost as bad as winter. It would get hot, really hot, with lots of humidity. There were bugs too. I remember the back of my neck being covered in little scabs because there were tiny blood-sucking flies everywhere. They loved me. I constantly scratched at the back of my neck and would see blood on my nails all summer long. I've suffered from depression for as long as I can remember. I've read about seasonal affective disorder, or SAD, which is caused by a lack of sunlight. I figured living in Buffalo, I must have that. So after graduating from high school, I immediately moved to Florida. Plenty of sunshine there. But there were even more bugs. Big ones too. I've even seen cockroaches as big as my fist in my own closet. I worked as a waitress for 2 weeks. I was the worst. I'd get so nervous that my hands would shake. Serving soup on a tray turned into a huge mess. I couldn't get the orders right. My customers would ask me to bring them something and I'd get caught up with the other customers and forget. It was the late 1980s and smoking indoors was still common. A customer once asked me for an ashtray, but by the time I got to her, the cigarette was burnt down to the filter. She did manage not to ash anywhere, but she was not happy. In fact, I can't remember anyone being happy with my waitressing abilities, or lack thereof. I moved on to a grocery store. I was a cashier. I did pretty well there. I think it was better for me to stay in one place and have customers come to me rather than vice versa. Eventually, I was promoted to work at the customer service desk. I was cashing checks and taking people's recycling. I remember one day coming to work without any makeup on because I wanted to try the natural look. My coworker said, "Oh, honey, are you not feeling well?" I told her I felt fine and decided not to wear makeup. She said, "Sweetie, you're one of those people who really needs to wear makeup. Go to the bathroom and put some on, okay?" I dutifully obliged. From then on, I didn't feel comfortable not wearing makeup. If I had been confident, I would have ignored her comment or came back with some kind of witty comment, but at that point, I didn't have any tools to stand up for myself. I cared so much about what others thought, I didn't have any idea of what I thought about myself. Yoga fostered the connection to myself. Today, I not only seek to make a connection to myself, but also with others. Practice safety, practice for life. Love and light, Lesley. This is one of Lesley's favorite quotes. You are one of a kind. You are lucky enough to have something that makes you different from everyone else. Embrace your individuality. Self-worth comes from one thing, thinking that you are worthy. So appreciate what it feels like underneath your own skin. You are amazing just the way you are. Melchor Lynn. My name is Kayla, for those of you who don't know me, and Lesley Fightmaster was one of my one and only real life heroes. I've thought a lot about what I wanted to call her today because truthfully, she filled so many roles in my life that it made it difficult to decide how to describe her. But for me, Lesley was iconic. That may sound childish to some, maybe even naive, but I was only 19 when I met her and fresh out of rehab. Lesley and Duke hosted an AA meeting. It was the coolest in all of Orange County and even had their own talk show. Lesley was sober a long time, even then, which is almost 14 years ago now. Lesley started sponsoring me in AA and convinced me to take a teacher training that she was leading. Lesley had her life together in my eyes, so I did what she suggested. Lesley didn't care that I was broken, that I was newly sober, or that I was barely hanging on to reality. Sorry. She wanted me there, and so I went. Many years went by. I struggled with my sobriety, and Lesley was always encouraging me, telling me to keep going and to keep coming back. When I did finally get sober, Lesley was still there. I started teaching, and there she was, encouraging me. I trained with her again. During that time, she began walking me through my divorce. Now I was 26 years old at this point, and Lesley was carrying me through my darkest days of my sobriety and of my life. She did it so effortlessly with small phrases like, "Call me again in an hour and we'll see how you're doing then." Or, "Everything is perfect in God's world, so you don't have to worry about anything." And one of her most famous, "Is it odd or is it God?" Lesley knew love. She knew patience. She lived with a heart of devotion and compassion. And in my later years, she moved from being my yoga hero or my AA hero and became my life's hero. I wanted to be like her, to learn how to love like Lesley knew how to love. Sorry. I wanted to listen the way she knew how to listen. To show up for people the way only she knew how. I wanted to understand how to survive hardship and still carry the light of God with me to all who I encounter. She became my hero not because of what she was doing, but because of who she existed as in this world. It never occurred to me that we would run out of time. I thought Lesley and her legacy would be there until one of us died of old age. I could never have foreseen that out of the blue she would be gone too soon. Yet there I was, facing the one scenario I didn't even think was possible. I loved her. She was my teacher. She was my sponsor. She was my mentor. And she was my friend. And suddenly she was in the ether. Within seconds of words leaving someone's lips, she was an angel out of my realm of existence. The words hit me like an anvil taking out a block of cement. My hero, now an angel off this earth too soon.
Lesley left many things behind. First and foremost, her beautiful family, her sons, Indy and Stone, and all those who loved her. But in time, I have begun to feel that Lesley did not just leave people behind, she left her legacy. She left her legacy for all to reach for now that she is no longer here. So as I close, I'd like to remind everyone of a few things that Lesley has left for us so that we can all bear witness to her light today and forevermore. You see, heroes don't die with their human form. They live on in our words and in our inspired actions and in the heart of our decisions. Heroes are eternal, and that is why Lesley is mine. So as she would say, remember everything in reality is in God's plan. So whatever you choose, it is God's plan too, because it is happening. You are smart, you are amazing, and totally awesome. I love you. Thank you.
Lesley's brother David is now here and will share with us what it was like to have Lesley as a sister. Come on up, David.
I am Brother David, and she was Sister Lesley. That's what I was referred to and what I referred to her as. We heard from Maria earlier. Maria and Jenny and Kristen, they'd always call me Brother Lesley, or Brother David, and I'd always answer back with Sister Lesley. So, like you heard earlier, we grew up in Alden, New York, and the winters were fierce, and the blizzard of 77. We lived in this house, and the snow was just, so high. The winters were terrible. I was a paper boy. I had to put on swim goggles in order to get the papers because the snow was just blowing so bad. So and she was right. It would be like a month, and you wouldn't see the sun during the winter. Fortunately, during the summer, we had a cottage in Canada, so we'd go over to the cottage in Canada on the Niagara River, and I had a lot of fun there. Hopefully she did too. It seemed like she did. But we'd go fishing, and we could go swimming, and the water was pretty brisk in the beginning of the summer, so it'd cool you off on hot days, and had a lot of fun over there in Cozy Dell, tiny Cozy Dell, Canada. We took a trip across the country when she was about 6.5, 7 maybe, and we started in Buffalo, of course, and drove north and west, and so we ended up going through the northern part of the country and visiting different things like the Black Hills of South Dakota and different, we went to Crater Lake. And then we came to the state of California, and maybe she liked it when we came to the state of California. Our uncle lived here, Uncle Freddie, and we visited him and his wife and kids and spent a few days in the Santa Cruz area, went to the pier, and then we came probably right past here and spent a little time in San Diego. By age 7 now, thanks to this trip, Lesley also went to Mexico. There was a little mix-up, and Dad was supposed to meet them here or there, and Mom and Lesley were in Mexico by themselves. So at age 7, she was in all 3 of the major countries in North America, and she was almost in one of the countries a lot longer than anybody would have cared for. She wasn't much of a traveler, but I'm sure she had some fun on that trip. We heard her exclaim from the back seat or the rear of the station wagon, "Stomach ache, stomach ache, stomach ache." And so fortunately there's lots of Dramamine in those days, so everybody got a little bit of break from that. So later on, she moved to Florida after high school. There was a little bit of that earlier. So she got a choice. Would you rather go to college or would you like a new car? So she decided taking a new car sounds like a good option. But like you heard in the letter, it did teach her some life experiences, and a year and a half later, she was back in New York and going to school. She worked at a bar, bartending. I'd come home to visit sometimes, and she got me turned on to putting blue cheese onto pizza. So I already like blue cheese and I already like pizza. So that was a good discovery by her. So I worked in the space shuttle program, and we had the shuttle landings out there at Edwards Air Force Base. So one time I was staying, I think it was my first landing, STS-35. So she came out to visit from San Francisco. She'd now moved to San Francisco by then. And so we spent, I think she was there for a night, and we spent a little bit of time together. I had a little bit of time that we were waiting for the shuttle to land and stuff. You had to be out there early just in case. So that was good timing. And then I visited her in San Francisco. She had an apartment there, and she had asked the landlady, can you paint the apartment? And the landlady's like, no, you have cheap rent. We're not going to paint the apartment. She was in one of those rent-controlled apartments. And so I visited her there and went to the Hard Rock Cafe, and I still got the sweatshirt that I got from the Hard Rock Cafe. So, and then after that was the Duke time frame. So I guess I'll end it about there. But if you've ever heard her sing "Welcome to the Jungle," just recall that right now, because that was one of her best songs. And the Deacons and her, very good. So thank you.
Thank you, David.
Yeah.
Like all of us, Lesley had her demons, her own battles with darkness. She struggled with depression and alcoholism. When she moved to San Francisco, she decided to face those demons and get into recovery at the age of 24. Part of the human condition is to struggle. No one gets past this part of life. We all have our issues, we all have our cross to bear, and Lesley was no exception to this truth. Lesley had personal darkness that she struggled with. It's a cliche to say that the darkest part is right before the dawn, but in her case, it was true. At this age, Lesley was introduced to recovery, sobriety, and the 12 steps. She was a sober, recovering alcoholic for over 22 years.
Probably the part in my life that changed me the most was when I decided that I couldn't drink alcohol anymore. That was a really dark time for me, and it did absolutely change my life because it put me on a spiritual path. I realized that if I was going to continue doing what I was doing, I was going to continue a downward spiral, and that continuation of feeling really badly about myself, not taking care of myself, not caring really a lot of times if I lived or died. So it was a big turning point for me to have that hope that I didn't have to live that way anymore. And it was really because of that change in my life, which was like 21 years ago now. Because of that change in my life brought everything good that's good in my life today. My marriage, my kids, yoga, all of it. I wouldn't have any of this if it weren't for that turning point.
During her first year of sobriety, she surrounded herself with other women in recovery. They'd all hang out together, go to meetings, dances, meals with one another. They called themselves the 94109 crew, which was the zip code for the Nob Hill district in San Francisco. When Lesley talked about her early years in recovery, she said that it was a time of self-discovery and fun. Lesley's good friend from San Francisco, Lisa Ann, will now speak. Well, apparently we have technical difficulties, so we'll save Lisa Ann for another time. We'll post it on the YouTube channel later on. I met Lesley when she and I were both 2.5 years sober in recovery. I was a musician who wrote songs, and Lesley was the backup singer in a sober band called the Blackouts. I was asked to play some songs with them. The first thing that I noticed was this hot chick singing harmonies. We quickly started dating, and we formed a band called Fight Master. Our days were spent with friends at meetings, laughing and playing music. My friend David will read a letter from Lesley talking about meeting me through music. Hi, Karen. Okay, a letter from Lesley. By the way, I'm honored to be here to speak. Lesley meant a lot to me. A letter from Lesley. After college, I moved to San Francisco. I joined a band called the Blackouts. Singing backup, they even let me sing some of the songs as the front person. It was terrifying, but there was something about having all those electric guitars and drums that made it a little easier. I could hide a bit behind the music. One day, a super cute guy came to play with us. The drummer invited him to sit in. He played guitar and wrote his own music, and I really loved watching him play and listening to him sing. Did I mention he was really cute? Those are her words. Yep, that was the day I met Duke. I'd tell you the whole story another time, but it was an important day for me. Duke and I ended up starting our own band. He was very supportive of my singing. My confidence got a little boost. Before I read this next quote, this is a quote of Lesley's. I spoke to someone that she sponsored for 5 or 7 years or something. And I asked her what she thought about what I was supposed to read. And when I started reading this quote, she immediately started finishing the sentences. And she said, "Fuck, that's Lesley's favorite quote." Anyway, here it is. Our deepest fear is not, sorry about my language. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? Shine your soul with the same egoless humility as the rainbow, no matter where you go in this world, or the next love will find you, attend you, and bless you. And that's Marianne Williamson. Yeah, I just want to say a couple things about Lesley. Lesley had a big impact on me. I remember when Duke and her met. We were at their apartment in San Francisco, and it was the first time I had met Duke's girl. And I was like, who's this girl? Anyway, we met, and I was like, if you know me, you know that I'm a bloviator of some kind. I talk a lot of stuff. And I talked to Lesley, and I was like, oh, I have an idea for a business, because she was doing this thing. She was working for a .com company in the 2000s. And she's like, well, she totally called my bluff. She was like, come on, meet my CEO. I was like, oh, shit. So I got out, we took the BART, and then we took the bus, and then we went down, and Lesley was walking a few feet in front of me in San Francisco, just down the street. She was wearing thigh-high boots and a mini skirt, and I thought, Duke is way out of his freaking league. And he was out of his league.
But I will tell you that when Duke decided to drop his whole world and become a comedian, nobody stuck up for her more than she did. She backed him no matter what. No matter what, she always had Duke's back. And Duke's, in my opinion, Duke is my best friend. And the fact that she did that spoke volumes about her character. But anyway, thank you guys. I appreciate it.
Thanks, David. Should we try the next video, see if it works?
Thank you. San Francisco, and you came and you played some songs with us. And
You thought that was cute?
yeah,
All right, we'll cut that video. You thought it was
hot.
We'll save it for later. When I met Lesley, she was really focused on self-discovery and self-improvement. She learned that whatever darkness she had within herself, it didn't just disappear because she put down the drink and got sober. She had to deal with her mind. It's not easy to get our minds to turn off, to get our negative self-talk to stop, to get our minds to stop comparing ourselves to others, compare and despair. Lesley was looking for relief from her mind. And one of the 12 steps is meditation. And this is where the journey, her journey to change the world began. Leslie's late 20s and early 30s were heavily focused on spirituality. She was seeking to connect to something greater than herself. You might call it God, the universe, Mother Nature. She was on an adventure of the spirit, to awaken the spirit, to become present. While this time was focused on music, love, and laughter, she wanted to explore her inner universe. She felt that a way to do this was through meditation, and so she started a journey to calm her mind. But what happened is when she tried to turn her mind off, her mind just got crazier. She wanted relief from her mind, and she really thought that meditation would give it to her, but she couldn't get into it. So she started researching better ways to meditate. And what she heard was something that many of us came to benefit from. Somehow she came across the information that the best way to prepare your mind for meditation was through yoga. So she was excited to try.
I got started in yoga. It was probably it was 1999 or the year 2000. And I had, like I said, I had stopped drinking, and but I was still kind of depressed. So I heard also that yoga is a good way to help with meditation, because I heard that meditation is a good way to help me to feel better about myself, to help with depression. I was always struggling with depression and, like I said, low self-esteem. So I heard that meditation is a really good way to help with that. But I tried to sit and meditate, and it was a disaster. I couldn't do it. My mind would just constantly chatter at me. I just couldn't relax for a moment. I went to a yoga class. The first class I went to was a hot yoga class, the Bikram style. And I know a lot of people like that, but it wasn't for me. I don't like that much heat, and I didn't feel good. So I was really disappointed actually after that first class, because I thought, oh no, this is yoga and I don't like it. And so what am I going to do now? And then I found that there were other types of yoga to practice. So I found a Vinyasa Flow type. It was also based on the Ashtanga tradition. And so it's really really vigorous flow. So when I was finished with the practice after an hour and a half of practicing, I was a sweaty mess and I was just kind of exhausted. So when we got to the last posture, Shavasana, it was the first time I can remember in a really long time being able to just lie still and be present, and my mind was quiet. And for me, that was amazing.
Leslie's friend Shireen will now read a letter from Lesley about some of the healing limbs of yoga for the mind.
letter from Lesley. Within the first two limbs of the Yoga Sutras, yama, restraints, and niyama, observances, there are guidelines to help us have the best possible relationships with ourselves and others. There are 5 yamas. Ahimsa, non-harming. My favorite definition is no harm. No harm to your body, no harm to your mind. This also extends to avoiding harm to others. Satya, truthfulness. Tell the truth. Be honest with others. It's especially important to be honest with yourself. Asteya, non-stealing. You learned this in preschool, or before. Don't take other people's stuff, but also be mindful of stealing time. If you're usually late for things, it also includes keeping someone's confidence. Don't steal anyone's trust. Brahmacharya, self-restraint. This one has many definitions as well. My favorite understanding is to practice moderation and self-restraint. Aparigraha, non-hoarding or collecting. Take what is necessary without taking advantage. There's really no need to accumulate things that you don't use. Material possessions are not wrong or bad. However, they will cause harm if you put them in front of all else. There are also 5 niyamas. Saucha, cleanliness. Keep yourself clean. Wash your clothes, clean your yoga mat, take a shower. Eat unprocessed foods to keep your insides clean and healthy too. Santosha, contentment. Find peace in the present moment. Look within instead of looking outside of yourself for joy. There is no fear in the present moment. That is in the future. It's not real. There is no regret in the present because that is in the past. The present moment is all you really have. It's a gift. Tapas, discipline. It's not the same tapas as the yummy little plates of food. I mean, I can just imagine Lesley saying that, right? Tapas translates as to burn. When you practice regularly, you gain discipline, and it's not always easy. When incorporating tapas on the mat, you burn out the impurities in your body and your mind. Svadhyaya, self-study. Continue to study yourself. Get close to yourself and learn all there is to know about the marvelous being that you are, that is you. Feel free to seek out the wisdom of inspirational books and people to help you make your connection. Ishvara Pranidhana, surrender. The literal translation is to lay all your actions at the feet of God. If you believe in God, this will make sense. If you don't, you can substitute the word God for something that is meaningful to you, like universe or love. The idea is to show up and do your best, but detach from any results. Easier said than done, I know. I will say it once again. There's so much more to yoga than practicing poses on your yoga mat. When you care for yourself, something magical happens. Love and light, Lesley. And I just have a quote from her, one of her favorite quotes. Watch your thoughts, they become words. Watch your works, they become actions. Watch your actions, they become habits. Watch your habits, they become your character. Watch your character, for it becomes your destiny. Upanishads. And I really want to share so much of my personal experience with Lesley, but I'm just going to be honest, my heart is still very raw, and that's okay, because I just feel her all around me every day. Whenever I think of her, I feel her. And
growing up, I was friends with the popular kids, but I felt like an outsider. I was easily embarrassed It was obvious when I felt embarrassed. I'd get red and blotchy all over my neck. It would creep up to my cheeks. My eyes would water. I didn't know how to stand up for myself. In grade school, one of my friends decided my nickname would be Fart. I was mortified. I wasn't the type of person that ever wanted anyone to know that I even passed gas. I turned all red and blotchy. My eyes watered, but I didn't say anything. I tried to laugh it off like I didn't care. That name stuck for years. I brought all my insecurities with me through school. I was pretty good at singing. I was in the chorus and school musicals in high school. I had lead parts. I grew to enjoy performing, but rehearsing was terrifying. I didn't even want to practice for fear that someone might hear me. As I went through college, I was still painfully shy and uncomfortable. Having to stand up in front of the room and give a report was awful. I would physically shake, and my voice would wobble as I stood in my blotchy neck and bright red face trying to get through the material. After college, I started working in sales in the tech industry. I began to learn how to fake confidence by watching other people. When I needed to give presentations, the only thing that really gave me away was my red, blotchy neck and chest. But if I wanted to keep my job, I had to do it. So I started wearing scarves around my neck to cover up the redness. I learned to suit up and show up. On the outside, you would see a young woman who seemed to be brimming with confidence, but inside, I was still that little terrified girl, afraid of what you might think of me, terrified of saying the wrong thing and making a fool of myself, thinking that my nickname used to be Fart. Thus began my search for perfection. If I were perfect, I would be beyond reproach. No one would be able to ridicule me if there was nothing to ridicule. I was on my way. I chased high-paying sales jobs and I got them. I was playing the part of a successful businesswoman. I didn't ask questions. Questions showed weakness. I would figure everything out on my own, or I would seek out a trusted confidant who would help me without revealing my perceived flaws. Pouring through self-help and sales books, I found a decent amount of success. On the outside, things looked really good, but inside, I was still the same. I kept thinking that if I looked perfect and gained material success, my inside feelings would have to change to match. They never did. Low self-esteem and insecurity plagued me for years. It didn't matter how much success I had or how much money I made. It took a long time for me to realize that feeling good about myself had to come from the inside out and not from the outside in. The practice of yoga helped me to make that connection. One of Lesley's favorite quotes: "Shine your soul with the same egoless humility as the rainbow, and no matter where you go in this world or the next, love will find you, attend you, and bless you." Abraham. So my name is Linda. Thank you, Duke, for asking me to come and share a little bit of Lesley. I want to let you and Indiana and Stone know how very sorry I am that Lesley's gone. Nobody will love you the way you can love yourself, Linda Brown. And that's one of my favorite Lesley Fightmaster quotes. I didn't know that about myself until she taught me. Lesley was soft-spoken, unbelievably kind, and gentle towards me and everyone. Her ability to reach that place of kindness, that God-centered place she brought out in me and in so many others, was remarkable. I believe she is now somewhere that she will forever experience that place within her own self to the fullest extent. Lesley Fightmaster brought with her a light that will never burn out. She brought it into every conversation, every yoga session, every myself at arms. So I kept myself at arm's length.
I hid behind a mask of self-confidence, of false confidence. I was easily hurt and tried to protect myself. I had thin skin and a hardened heart. As I continued along my journey, my heart began to soften. I started to drop the mask. I began to let people see me as I am. Imperfect, flawed human. I realized that I didn't have to take everything personally. I realized that most of the time it wasn't about me. My skin got thicker and my heart opened. It's hard to believe that something as simple as linking breath with movement on a yoga mat can transform someone so profoundly. I can hardly believe it myself, but I've seen it time and time again over the past 13 years that I've taught yoga. When you care for yourself, something magical happens. Practice safely, practice for life. Love and light, Lesley. And this is one of her favorite quotes as well. Let yourself be silently drawn by the strange pull of what you really love. It will not lead you astray. It's by Rumi. And I just wanted to say, if I may, the Hanuman song that Lesley sang, that was recorded, thank you for playing that. I ran into a student last weekend that Lesley and I both shared. She came on some retreats with us, and she said,
I did these poses often when Stone was a baby to get my pelvis back into alignment. I also practiced a lot of bridge poses. If you or someone you know suffers from sciatic pain, practice and share this video. If you don't have sciatica, thank goodness. You'll still enjoy today's class to stretch your hips and hamstrings. The secret phrase that I'd love to see in the comments is releasing the pain. Practice safely, practice for life. Love and light, Lesley. One of Lesley's favorite quotes was, a life change, spiritual change, physical change, or some kind of creation your soul came here to express. Whatever your heart is craving, know that you can do it. You wouldn't have the impulse if you didn't already have the goods to make it happen. Marie Forleo. I have read a little something. Thank you, Duke, for including me in this. And my name's Emily. I'm an alcoholic. It's true. So Duke moved here first, and he started showing up at the Monday night 12 and 12, and we all instantly just loved him. We thought he had like the best one-liners, and he told us about his wife. I'm gonna cuss because he called her the fuck yeah girl, and he told us that she would be joining soon. And sure enough, when Lesley arrived, she was everything and more. My friend Elaine and I decided that we were gonna claim her as ours and like keep her for ourselves, because she was like, we were gonna discover her first because she was so great. And I believe I was her second sponsee in Orange County, though I like to think the first one doesn't really count. Lesley was the very first person that I was ever able to be completely honest with, and I'm pretty sure that was part of her gift, was to make people feel safe, comfortable, and never judged. She and Duke were home base for many of us, but especially for me. I followed them literally everywhere. I didn't really know what else to do with myself, and they always welcomed me without question. I even ate tofurkey with them one Thanksgiving. It wasn't that bad. When Lesley's sponsees complained about us not being able to find a women's meeting that we like, she quickly started one for us in her home that we named the Non-Horrible Women's Meeting, and it was not horrible. So much of Lesley is woven into the fabric of who I am via her incredible and famous one-liners. She really showed me what unconditional love looked like so many of us, and that made me want to show up for people in that same way, to be a safe space for people to come as they are. Lesley had the most beautiful gift to make every person she knew feel like her favorite. I always tried to get her to tell me that I was her favorite, and she would just laugh. And I think we really, truly all were her favorites. And of course, always second to Duke and Indy and Stone. She truly loved her family, just as they were. Always, like Dave said, always believed in Duke and his projects. And she was just super proud of her boys. This is the end. Lesley was a healer, and I believe that's why she was put on this earth. And I think it's just always a little harder and more painful when we lose our healers. But something occurred to me the other day when I was talking to a friend about this. We don't ever really lose our healers. Their work stays with us forever. When they become, we become healers because of them. The only way I know how to honor Lesley in a way that feels even remotely meaningful is to continue on this path, to continue to be in recovery, to continue to hold safe space for others, to continue to look for ways that I can be a source of healing. The magic of Lesley is that she is still with us because of what she taught us. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. When Stone was about 7 months old, the economy began to crash. My business with 24 employees went under. I got a depressing job selling debt consolidation, working in a dark office. Lesley encouraged me to quit and find something that I love to do, so I quit my job and stayed home with the kids while Lesley took her 300-hour teacher training. During this time, there was a brand new website called YouTube, and I had the brilliant idea to start a talk show out of our bedroom. I was the host, and Lesley was my co-host. As we all know, Lesley has a great sense of humor, and she would always have hilarious, witty banter. She would do fun performances, and she even hosted the show one night.
Live from Laguna Beach, it's the Duke Fightmaster Show, and here's Lesley Fightmaster!
Thank you so much. It's really good that you guys are here tonight. And Duke is over there on the couch, and he's gonna be joining us a little bit. But I actually have some really, really good news. As you guys all know, Duke has really been trying to get the spot on NBC to take over for Conan O'Brien. So it's really good news. We got a 4-page letter from NBC.
All right.
I mean, it is a restraining order, but...
What started off as a fun idea became a huge source of struggle and pain. For 2.5 years, I refused to get a job and just focused on YouTube. Lesley worked hard teaching yoga for corporations, assisting yoga teacher trainings, and finally becoming a yoga trainer herself. Here's an excerpt from the love letter that I wrote to Lesley. Remember, we wrote each other love letters as if the other person would die and we would never see them again. Dear Lesley, you are my love. You are my lover. You are my dearest friend. You are my everything. I love you with all my heart. Your beauty and the energy of your soul has forever captured my heart. You are the mother of my children. Our children are the most beautiful beings I have ever known. I love our children more than life itself. And you are responsible for bringing these spiritual beings of love into the world. Our children love you more than anything. It's been amazing to see the love between you and the boys. Both Indy and Stone will grow up to be great men because of the love from their mother. They say that religion is for those who are scared of going to hell, and spirituality is for those who have already been there. You and I have been through hell and back. Our spirits are all we have left now. Your spirit will live in me forever, and I will carry the light of your spirit to all who come in contact with me. You've changed my world for the better. There's no one else I would ever want by my side. I can only hope that my spirit also resides in you somewhere. Please know I've always loved you and I always will. Your husband, Duke. My friend Ryan will now read a letter from Lesley about the times when we were struggling with money.
Hello, I'm Ryan, and this is a letter from Lesley. I shouldn't have done that hug first. I grew up believing that wanting things was bad. I equated money to being bad too. Asking for money was really bad. That bordered on shameful. Being a good caretaker of money was not something I learned or understood. In my 20s, I began to become very interested in energy and the spiritual realm. I found that money wasn't bad or shameful, it's just energy. I began to use the affirmations. I have more than enough money. I love money, and money loves me. I easily give and receive money. Someone gave me a book of abundance meditations. I did them every day. My income literally tripled within a year or two. Things were good on the money front. So good, in fact, my affirmations and meditations fell by the wayside. In 2008, we had a huge income reversal. We lost our home in San Francisco. Duke's car was repossessed. I sold mine and drove my mother-in-law's old Buick. We filed bankruptcy. The old feelings of shame returned. Money was bad again. I lost my trust in the energy of money. I lost my trust in the universe. It's been a long and difficult road regaining that trust. I know intellectually that money is energy. And she loved you guys so much. And I think you guys are really funny. You're a perfect split between your mom and your dad. You guys crack me up. I wrote down notes, but I don't want to pull my phone out. But I'm blanking on one thing, but I do want to say that I think the fact that she could help so many people was what she was put on this planet to do. I don't know God's will, but I do know that before I came up here, I did say, God, help me to be a maximum service to these people and her family. And I think that's what Lesley would have told me. So that's why I'm telling you that. And yeah, I love Lesley. I love what Lesley saw in Duke. And Duke, I love you. And I'm really glad I got to be here and see so many people I've known for a long time. I spoke way too long. I told Kayla 1 minute. A minute, I'm out. I think that was about 4. I talk too much, but I love all of this being done today and honoring Lesley. And thank you, Duke.
Thank you, Ryan. I love you too. During this time, we went through our savings. We had to move out of our nice house in Laguna. We lost our cars. We maxed out our credit cards. We lived off the rent from our home in San Francisco until we finally lost that home. Eventually, we declared bankruptcy, and life did not look good. We were broke. Lesley was stressed out. But still, through all of this, Lesley took her money from yoga teacher training, and she bought me a camera to make a movie. I needed to learn how to use this camera, so I asked her to let me practice filming her doing yoga. And that was the beginning of something great. We filmed Lesley doing yoga at a studio called Pacific Ashtanga, owned by Diana Christensen. We forgot about the video for many months, and then one day we looked and we noticed that it had thousands of views and over 1,000 subscribers.
I got my hands on a camera and I said, hey Lesley, I want you to test the camera with a yoga routine. So you did yoga.
Mm-hmm.
I put it up on YouTube, forgot about it.
Yep. And I remember you said we're going to do the yoga and then we're going to do the voiceover separately, because one thing you learned from YouTube is that sound is super important.
Right.
So that was smart of you.
Right. So I made you do a voiceover, which people love. People love your voice. That's one of the best parts of the channel.
Yeah, we did a 30-minute Ashtanga video, put it up on YouTube, totally forgot about it.
Mm-hmm.
And then
I made a movie,
which
no one saw.
Well, I saw it.
You saw it. We did play it in one movie theater.
That was fun.
And then we came back a year later to see your YouTube video.
All the light that she was passing on as a teacher, teaching teachers to teach. When Duke and Lesley started this Fight Master Yoga, they not only touched hundreds of people with this light and transformed and inspired hundreds of people, but hundreds of thousands of people's lives have been changed because of her colorful, bright, amazing soul. And when I say to you today, Lesley is a light, Lesley is a colorful light. She will continue through this channel they've created, but through all of the ways she taught, the words she used to make people feel like you don't have to be perfect. You know, all of the ways that she expressed yoga that made people feel like it can inspire them and change them continues on. I think of Lesley, to me, was so colorful when we were making an Ashtanga video series together, Intro to Ashtanga, and Lesley would show up for every single of the sessions with pink and blue and orange and bright pink lipstick, and I'd be in black, and then I'd be in black, and I'd be in black. And I would always tell Lesley, I'm like, I live vicariously through your color. And I mean so much more than that, than just her shirts and pants, but really the bright person that she was. So the one thing that I want to give to all of you and all of the people that are with us tonight that are watching this and that will continue to watch this, I want you to continue to be inspired by the light and color of Lesley. What I decided to do is I wanted to have something that had color in it that I could wrap myself in. So the first thing that I chose was this mallet that I'm wearing on my wrist. It was a gift of a friend. It was just in a box somewhere, and I remembered it, and I remembered that the stones were orange and the thread was green. And I said, that's Lesley's mala. And I put it on the altar at the school, and every morning when I light the candles, I see that, and I remember Lesley, and I remember her beauty and her inspiration. I remember our friendship. I remember her way of teaching that touched me. And then I remember this scarf that I bought in India 1,000,000 years ago, and it sits in a drawer somewhere. And when we at our school did a special celebration of life for Lesley, I wore this scarf. And I said, this is my Lesley scarf. And every time I wrap this around my neck, I'm gonna wrap her love around me, and I'm gonna remember what an amazing soul she is. And now when my students see me wearing this scarf, they say, Lesley's yes, she is. In my pocket is something that a lovely lady named Lori gave me. This is I'm holding it here. This is a heart that has some of the stones I think have butterflies on it. But Lori and some friends made these stones, and I want to say, we could say this is a touchstone. This is a way to remember Lesley. I want to invite all of you to join Lori and to join me and choose something that will remind you of her bright light and colors and how she personally touched you and lives on through us, through our memories, through what we take from her and continue to bring into the world. I put bright yellow flowers on the altar often near her picture, and it reminds me of how much I love her. Being here tonight, it's serendipitous and beautiful that the oranges are beautifully in bloom, and the orange blossoms smell so sweet. Because every time we smell an orange blossom, we might think of Lesley and remember this evening. And the beautiful, like, polka-dotted colors of these trees that remind us of Lesley. So oftentimes I say, choose, but really it will choose you. Something will choose you, and you will say, this is how I want to remember Lesley. This is what I want to keep near me, so she's always near, and I'm always
best. I guess, I think in my mind, like, hey, this is what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to have a job, and we're supposed to make money, and we're supposed to use that money and raise our children with it.
So basically, is the lesson that sometimes when something seems so bad, there could be something good around the corner. You never know.
Yes. And I think too, like, you never know how things are going to work out. So yes, it was a very hopeless time, and I don't wish that on anybody. But if anyone's going through anything similar, just know, if you truly in your heart believe that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, you might not get what it is that you have in mind about what you'd like to create. But putting all that energy out into the universe, I think the universe will passionately rearrange itself to show you what to do next.
That's the lesson that I learned. I think that, I might throw myself into my dreams and think that I'm going to replace Conan O'Brien. But if you throw yourself into your dreams and you just go 100%, it might not work out the way you wanted, but something totally out of the blue might pop up. And if you pay attention when it does,
Yeah.
go for it.
Yeah, because you got to pay attention too. That's a good point, because something could be knocking at your door right now that you're just like, that's not what I want. That's not what I want. So being open is super important.
After about 2 or 3 years of releasing free yoga videos each week, Lesley was able to officially quit her job and become a full-time YouTuber. Lesley developed a connection with people all over the world, in every country. People who never met Lesley felt like they knew her. They felt connected to her, and most importantly, their lives.
Time. Clearly, she was a woman of power and compassion, magnetizing thousands of students and extending her heart to all of them in the ways they needed. Her commitment to inclusivity by offering such a variety of classes was astonishing. She met me, and I'm sure many others, where they were in their own ability level, and that was special. I grieve with the rest of the community, her followers. I offer my deepest sympathy and condolences to her husband Duke and her children. May her legacy continue to live on in all ways. I'm Becky. I met Lesley in the rooms many years ago at her first meeting, and she grabbed onto my tail pocket and didn't let go. We had many beautiful times together, and somebody that was up here earlier said, is it odd or is it God? And that is one quote that stays with me every single day of my life. She was like my twin sister, and we got into a lot of shenanigans together, mainly shopping. She liked to shop, so I didn't know her much through the yoga community and through her yoga, but I knew her very personally on a very deep level. And remember when she met Duke and the beauty of that relationship and how that blossomed. And watching her kids, and Indy, you probably don't know this, but I had a son who was close in your age, and you came to visit us one time, and we were teaching you boys to roll over at the same time. So it's a very special memory for me. So that's all. Thanks.
Thank you, Becky. Our first retreat in Europe was on Kofanisi Island. It was beautiful and a magical place. It was also the first time we met people who only knew Lesley from YouTube. These students who had spent countless hours with Lesley were finally in the same room with her. And it was funny to see that they were a little starstruck by her presence. They would always say, "Wow, she's so small in real life." I guess people thought that Lesley was a tall girl from watching her videos, but when they saw her in real life, her height would throw them off. Lesley would make a joke about it and we would all laugh. And within a very short amount of time, it felt like they were best friends.
Feel like richer, and I also think it was really cool how before I was born, she was in a band with my dad and made music. And lastly, my mom is without a doubt the person I love the most. So thank you.
Andy's been doing yoga with Lesley every day, and this summer he's going to go to yoga teacher training and become a yoga teacher. Lesley's mom, Linda, will now say a few words about her beautiful daughter.
Hi. As you can surmise, I knew Lesley her whole life. In that time, I can't ever remember her losing her temper. Yes, she would get mad, but no temper tantrums. She was a very loving child. She was also very talented. She played the clarinet, the piano, the guitar, and she sang. She took voice lessons and could sing in Italian as well as English. She was in musicals in high school, and she and Duke had a band for a while. She also took gymnastics for about 3 years. I'm sure this helped with yoga. I would like to share with you a quote Lesley sent me on my birthday. Quote, "We all need a little comfort now and then, a reminder to help us know that we are not alone in the world, that there is someone in our corner ready with a hug no matter what. Always know you are being thought of, cheered on, and loved for exactly who you are, someone who is beautiful and wonderfully made." End quote. This is Leslie's gift to all of us. We are beautifully and wonderfully made. Lesley left us another wonderful gift, Stone and Indy. It has been said, it takes a village to raise a child. I think we have a village right here. As a gift to Lesley, may we come together and leave a Fight Master legacy by carrying on Leslie's love for her boys. Let her light shine through all of us. Thank you.
I go to yoga every morning now, and during certain poses, I can hear Leslie's voice guiding me. When I'm in camel pose, I feel her holding the string that she used to tell us to imagine, lifting my chest towards the sky. Lesley would end every yoga class by guiding us through Shavasana with one of her favorite quotes. After the quote, she would say, "Quiet mind, quiet body, Shavasana." Then she would tell us to roll to our right side, take a moment to honor and thank ourselves for this practice. Finally, she would lead us through a closing prayer. Let's join Lesley now with her traditional close.
Our quote today is from Brené Brown. "You were born worthy of love and belonging. Courage and daring are coursing through you. You were made to live and love with your whole heart. It is time to show up and be seen."